Please welcome to the stage Shonte Taylor.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for coming this evening. Did you enjoy that? Yes. I did it myself, see, tapping into my potential. Well, I just want to honor you for being here today, first and foremost, because it's Friday night. You didn't have to fight the traffic. You know, I used to live in LA for 10 years, so I get the traffic, okay? So, you know, you could be anywhere. You could be watching Scandal or something. I don't know when that comes on, but you chose today to be here, right? Something inside of you said, I need to be here today, at this moment. And you may not even know why you're here, but I know that a part of you, a part of your higher self said, I just need to be here. I'm sure none of you came kicking and screaming, right? You came on your own accord. So I just want to honor you for your time tonight. So I am Shonte Taylor. I am a potentialist coach and neuroscientist at heart. I empower people with how the greatest technology on the planet works so that you can reach your highest potential. How many are ready to start living up to their highest potential? Yeah, it's time. So, how many feel like you're living up to at least 80% of your potential? 80%? You have these ideas in your head and you're fulfilling them, you're getting them done. How about, okay, we got a couple in the front. How about 50% of your full potential? All right, we're halfway there, okay. Should I go lower? Well, after this talk, I hope that you will have the tools and strategies to start the process of living up to your highest potential, because it's time. Can't you feel it? Hear it? I mean, just imagine if everybody was operating at their highest level of awareness, their highest potential. It would be a totally different planet, don't you think? All right, let's get it going. So what are you going to learn today? We're going to give the law of attraction some legs, okay? A stronger foundation. And Jules did a wonderful job of explaining what the law of attraction is. And there will be some overlap because we're resonating on the same frequency tonight. And I just want to give another round of applause to Jules for setting this up. Let's give her a hand. Because we really needed to add some stability to this law. It exists, but it may not be quite working out for some people, right? And it gets frustrating, and you stop believing, even though it exists. There's so many laws that exist that we are not aware of, but they exist. And the more we understand these laws, the more our consciousness grows, the more we're able to become more aware and start operating at that higher level of awareness. That's my goal for you tonight. So, we understand that beliefs are important for the law of attraction. You have to believe that it works, right? You have to believe that what you want and desire is going to come to you, right? So that's a part of the law of attraction. We know that your emotions affect what you get, right? You don't put out the right vibes. If you're not happy, you're going to get whatever level you're vibing on. And of course, you have to ask for what you want, right? But I'm going to take it to the next level, because I think we kind of got in the asking mode, but not in the giving mode. And I think that's one of the missing pieces of the law of attraction. You know, we're in a very materialistic society, wouldn't you agree? And we get caught up in that. But it's in the giving that we resonate on another level outside of ourselves, a higher purpose. And that is when the law of attraction really starts to take shape. And of course, we need to know about the brain. The brain is the greatest technology on the planet, but how many of us really know how to use it? We know more about the brain in the last 20 years than in the last 1,000 years. We're able to peer inside the brain and see how it operates, see how it lights up when we're thinking, when we're feeling, when we're doing. And we can see the law of attraction working. Now, scientists don't call it the law of attraction like Jules said, but it's the principles. So that's another missing piece that I'm going to give so you can really manifest what you so desire. So let's give the law of attraction some stability. I'm excited because I get to talk about more science, which I'm a neuroscientist, so I like to talk about the brain. So let's get into it. I am going to assume, let me make two assumptions. Is that okay? I am going to assume that you are here because you are seeking something. You're already operating on a certain level of awareness. So there's a piece of the puzzle you need. You don't even know what the piece is yet. But I want to talk to you on that level because I know you're already, that's why you're here. And not everybody's on a certain level of awareness, right? I'm also going to assume that you're here to learn some science. So please take diligent notes, copious notes, because I am going to give you some science, okay? But I'm going to put it all together. I'm going to make it applicable to life. So this is me 15 years ago, UCLA, in the front of the neuroscience building. You know, you graduate, you learn all this stuff, and you think you're going to take over the world. You think you're going to change the world with this new knowledge, and then adulthood really hits, right? Responsibilities. So this was me 15 years ago. And as I began to get more responsibilities and live this thing called life and accumulate stuff, have children and get married, all those good things, there still comes a point in time where you have to make choices. You come to a fork in the road and you have to decide, what am I going to do next? You know, am I living up to my full potential? And there's situations that will force you to get to that fork in the road. So, for me, that fork in the road came strongly 5 years ago. I crashed into a pole in an empty parking lot, going no more than 20 feet. Why did I crash into a pole? I was burnt out. I was stressed out. And my brain just had enough. And I was only awakened by the screams of my 3- and 5-year-old in the back seat. And in that moment of darkness, when I was coming into consciousness, and I could smell the fumes, I could hear my children screaming. I could hear also my higher self saying, Shonte, what is going on? You have got to take care of yourself. So thank God we were all okay that day. But I didn't forget that moment. And I had to start taking better care of how I managed myself. I was a wife, I was a mother, graduate student, I was working, but I wasn't tuning in to me. So I had to find me. Because that's where it starts, with you. How many of you feel like you hit a pole in your life? Or a wall? Maybe not literally, but you hit it, right? Did you listen? Some of us don't listen, right? I started to listen. I said, okay, what can I do? What do I know? How can I take better care of myself? Well, I had a degree in neuroscience, right? I knew about how the brain operated. I knew about how we store memories and how we can make our brains more efficient, how we can be more attentive. I knew all that because we had the MRIs, we had the CAT scans, you know, invented so that we can look into the brain and figure these things out. So I knew the basics of the brain and how it operated. But I needed it to take me to another level of awareness. Because see, what neuroscientists do, a lot of neuroscientists do, they just study the mechanics of the brain. But they don't study how the brain can take us to another level of awareness. So that's what I want to teach you tonight is how to operate the greatest system on the planet Earth and take it so that you are operating at your highest level of awareness, which will get you to your highest level of your potential. So, I had to figure it out. How was I not going to feel trapped anymore in my own mind? You know, how was I going to, you know, manage my emotions, manage my stress levels, manage my spirit, manage my mind, manage my physiology, my body, so that I can have the energy to make higher order decisions. Because if you don't have the energy, how are you going to make decisions that are crucial for your life? You won't feel like it, right? So I had to figure that out. And the moment I changed my perception, everything changed in my life. The moment I started taking better care of myself, my brain, and applying the knowledge that I knew and taking it to the next level, things changed. And I decided, because I was studying to be a neuropsychologist, where 8 to 10 hours a day I would assess what was wrong with people's brains. And I flipped that. I said, I'm going a different direction. I want to tell people what's right with their brains. So I wrote a book to teach people how to use the most greatest technology on the planet, their own brain. Because you deserve to know how it works. You don't need to know all the science-y terms, right? I simplified it and I put it in a book. So when you're operating at your full potential, your creativity levels start to go off the charts. And you need somewhere to direct that. You need to unload that, right? So for me, it was in a book. Then I met Jules. And then Jules asked me to come on her show. And then she asked me to speak. So it was like a domino effect. When you're operating in your authentic skin, when you finally stop resisting, when you finally say, I'm going to show up as me, whoever that turns out to be, as long as I'm operating on that frequency, doors open. They will. That doesn't mean the fear won't come up. We'll talk about fear in a sec. So, let's get into it. We are going to get into a little bit of the brain. So the brain has three major parts that I want you to focus on. The brain stem, this is where you take notes, copious notes. The brain stem is important. It's important for our unconscious behaviors. It allows us to breathe without thinking. It allows our heartbeat to beat thousands and thousands of times a day. Thank you, heart. You know, it's a grateful moment, right? But it also is a source of our instincts, our flight and fight response, when we just react to something, right? Survival mode. And it's the old region of the brain. This middle region is the emotional brain. This is where we feel our love and our fear and our anger and our joy. But if it's not regulated, it will go awry. And these two will work in tandem to get what we have in our current world: depression, anxiety, violence, failure of our financial system, our educational system. They are all signs that we are operating at our lower primitive brain instead of our higher order thinking brain. And the most advanced part of the brain is this front part right behind your eyes. It's called the prefrontal cortex. It's the most advanced part of the brain. And I'll go into this a little further. So brainstem, emotional brain, prefrontal cortex. Let's just call it the CEO of the brain, the leader, okay? Because it should be directing the rest of the brain. This is where we plan, where we visualize. This is where we can get focused. How many of you think you have ADHD, attention deficit disorder? Yeah, well, if we just learn to magnify this, if we train our brains to use this better, you won't have it. But it's when these lower primitive parts are dominating, we're not able to think at these higher levels. Now, we use more than 10% of our brains. That's a myth. That's old, okay? Our brains are on fire, like fireworks. If you look at it in brain scans and you're talking or looking at something, all parts of the brain start to light up. But we only use 5% of our prefrontal cortex, our higher advanced part of the brain. Only 5% of this potential, because this other part is dominating. Okay? Once you just know that, you take your level of awareness from here to here. Okay? Born with a set number of neurons. That's an old myth too, right? You're only born with a certain number of brains. If you lose it, if you lose your brain cells, you'll never get them back. Well, that's all debunked now, right? Because we now know that we can stimulate new brain cells. Okay? So our potential is limitless. So when I train people, when I coach people, when I share with people about their own brain, I teach them how to operate at that higher level of awareness. Because if you're operating at this higher level of awareness, that prefrontal cortex, that CEO, that leader part of your brain, all your decisions will operate from that place, that higher place, the higher prefrontal cortex can connect you to the divine, to that higher mind, to that spirit. But if you're not operating from that place, it's hard to connect. It's hard to stay connected. So I was in the plane and, flying over the clouds, it just gave me more perspective on this slide, because when a plane is flying above 30,000 feet, there's always sunshine. There's always blue skies. It doesn't matter what kind of storm is going on. Once you get to this place, you can handle the storms, because they're going to come up. We have work to do on this planet. So if we're operating from this place, we can handle other stuff that's coming into our lives. So let's figure out how to operate from that place. Let's learn some brain facts. Fun facts, brain facts. Your brain weighs 3 pounds, but it uses up 20% of the body's energy. That's a lot of energy for a 3-pound mass in your brain. Physicists call it a universe, because it is. It has more atoms. It has more connections than a number of stars in the universe. Because it's made up of 100 billion brain cells, each able to connect to 1 to 10,000 other brain cells. So if you add all that up, that's trillions and trillions and trillions of connections going on in your brain. And every time one brain cell talks to the other, it's called an action potential. Go figure. So how many action potentials, how much potential do you have in your brain? Trillions and trillions and trillions. All that potential sitting there. And the more you understand it, the more you can use it, the more you can train your brain to operate at a certain level, and train your brain to do certain habits, have certain thoughts, certain emotions. We have a saying in neuroscience: brain cells that fire together wire together. So the more you focus your attention on something, your brain will wire itself. It will grow physiologically in that direction and create mental maps so that it becomes habit. Habits are great. Habits don't require a lot of energy. That's why we form habits. So when we form good habits that serve us, right, that's a good thing. It's when the habits don't serve us. So focusing your attention is crucial. So our conscious mind is very different from our unconscious and subconscious mind. Kind of cut off there. But 90% of our behavior is driven by those habits. You know, you don't have to think about driving really, unless you're going to somewhere new. You don't have to think about where your toothpaste is. You know, so a lot of things that we do is due to unconscious and subconscious. The beating of the heart, you don't have to think about that, okay? And that's a good thing, because why would you want to think about your heart beating every second, right? It's exhausting. So your conscious mind, your higher mind, can be used for higher order thinking and creating and doing and connecting, okay? But we want to be aware of what's going on in our unconscious and subconscious mind, right? So, whatever your mind focuses on, it drives all the rest of the cells in your body. This is the control center. You know, it links our subconscious mind to our higher mind, our limitless mind, but it also connects to our body and tells our body what to do. So, this is the control center, the portal between our limitless potential and our physical potential. So what does this have to do with the law of attraction, right? This is why you're here. All right, so let's just take the Earth. The Earth has this invisible force field around it. The electromagnetic field surrounds our planet, and it's caused by electrical charges, differences in electrical charges and flowing of electrical charges. And it orients our Earth. It polarizes our Earth. It gives us the North Pole and the South Pole. It allows animals to navigate the Earth, right? Travel thousands of miles. How do they know how to do that? Okay, so even though we don't know that this is, even though we can't see it, it's still there, and it's still important. It also deflects the sun's rays so we don't burn to a crisp, okay? So, what does that have to do with us? Well, let's just define a couple of terms here. An electric field is just a difference in positive and negative charges. When those charges start to flow, they become magnetic fields. Okay, and the faster those electrons flow, the stronger the magnetic field, which gives an electromagnetic field. Why would I be talking about this? Let's take a closer peek at the brain. So here is one brain cell. Before a brain cell, this is the science, people. Science behind the law of attraction, right? Before a brain cell is stimulated, there is always a difference in positive and negative charges. What do we call that? An electric, yes, you get a brain. Where's my brains? Give her a brain. When this neuron is stimulated,
It's the brain.
when this,
I created this. I was squeezing it.
oh, right, see, you attracted it, right? She came to the table asking about it. When a brain cell is stimulated, there is an influx of positive charges, and charges start to flow. And what do we call that? Magnetic field. She gets a brain. I heard it from you first. She gets a brain. Sorry, I'm putting you to work. So when those charges start to flow, it releases chemicals, neurotransmitters, if we want to get complex, that is released to the next cell so that they can talk to each other. Remember, brain cells have to talk to each other so we can think and move and talk and all that good stuff. We have billions and billions of neurons doing this, right? So that must mean we have an electromagnetic field. That must mean we have this internal GPS system that should technically allow us to navigate our lives using our higher selves. You see how that works? It's already within you. You can guide yourself to your best life with the power of your thoughts and design and be the architect of your own life. Follow your inner compass. You're designed to do it. Now you know. So let's get into another aspect. So we have these thoughts, right? We have this field, we have this inner guidance system. How do we power it up? Well, if we measure thoughts, we know that certain thoughts resonate on different frequencies, right? Waves. We can measure this using the EEG, right? Our brain goes through certain wave states. And so we have these wave states that we know about, right? Delta, when we're sleeping. And I could spend 3 hours just talking about the value of sleep and the brain. Theta, when we're just kind of waking up, our conscious mind is not fully awake. This is the perfect time to give instructions to your subconscious mind and reprogram your thoughts, set your day, right? Alpha, you're still kind of waking up, slower waves. You're more in a relaxed state. Beta is when you're really alert, like you're going throughout your day, right? You're ready to go. Your conscious mind is fully alert. And gamma, we don't hear too much about gamma, but gamma waves are when you have those moments of insight, you know, like when you're in the shower or something, and you get that bright idea, right? Your mind kind of blinks and form these gamma waves, like a wave in your brain. That's what shows up when we measure it. So, your thoughts and emotions resonate at high frequencies and low frequencies. And that's important because if we add up your thought energy and your emotional energy, if they are on the same frequency, they'll be amplified. So we get amplification of that energy. Okay, it could be if you have negative thoughts and negative emotions, you're going to amplify that, send that out in the world, and attract just that. If they're positive, they will also be amplified, and you'll attract just that. If your thoughts and your emotions are out of sync, you see the peaks are opposite, and the effect will be canceled out. So it's so important for your thoughts to match your emotions. Okay, but we want to match them in a positive way. So let's just take a quick example. A woman singing, an opera woman singing, right? She's thinking about her notes. She sends the signal down to her vocal cords. It's vibrating. That's vibrational energy because everything's energy, right? It comes out as sound waves, right? When you hear my voice, it's coming out as sound waves and it's being transferred to you. In this case, it's transferred to the glass, and those sound waves are vibrating at the same frequency of those glass atoms. So once they start resonating on the same level, she's able to break the glass. So if you're resonating on the same frequency as your thoughts and emotions, you're going to be able to get the results that you want or not want. So it just depends on if your emotions are positive, if your thoughts are positive, or if they're negative. So let's turn this into desires in our mental programs. Because remember, 90% of our behaviors are operating on the unconscious and subconscious levels. So with the law of attraction, you're supposed to ask for what you want. You're supposed to desire stuff, right? So you may say consciously you want something, but your mental programs have to be operating on the same frequency. Because what's going to happen? Well, if your thoughts and desires are operating on the same frequency, they'll be amplified, right? And you'll be able to send out that energy into the world and get the results that you want. If they're out of phase, like you kind of believe it, but you kind of don't, right? You may not manifest what you desire as fast because they're out of sync. It's not being the signal's not being amplified enough. If your desires and your beliefs are in complete opposition, it's going to cancel out. So it's so important to check your true belief systems and your mental programs. And we've been programmed to death. TV, parents, friends, whoever, right? But it's time to start really digging deep and checking that. Because we want to be operating from this place. We want our frequencies to be amplified. We want to be resonating. Our thoughts, our desires, our emotions, all should be resonating on the same frequency. How many of you feel like the law of attraction has been working just fine for you? Like you're able to manifest? Okay, a few of you. How many feel like, kinda, sorta, sometimes? Okay, so you might be operating here. How many feel like the law of attraction never works for you? Like, no matter how, oh, nobody wants to admit it. I admit, you know, I was in this phase for a while until I started really understanding the power of my thoughts and emotions and how to manage them and combine them with the law of attraction. So how do you do this? You have to manage your energy levels. Everything is energy, so it all boils down to energy. You have to manage your thoughts, your fears, how you talk to yourself, and your belief systems. You have to manage how you feel physically, because if you don't feel good physically, you're not going to be able to have the emotions to match what you say you want in this life. You have to master your emotions, because your emotions power up your thoughts, and we're going to go into that briefly as well. You have to master what you put your attention on, because remember, cells, brain cells that fire together, wired. Yes, you get a brain. So we want to master what we're putting our attention on, what distracts us. And of course, your purpose and passion is going to fuel your energy levels. Okay? When you're operating at this deeper place, you're resonating at the highest levels. You're operating at that 30,000 feet level. And being able to have the fuel, that deeper why, that passion, is going to fuel everything you do, regardless of the challenges that you face in this life. They're not going away yet. So we have to master that. So I'm just going to talk about a couple of these more deeply. Let's go back to the brain, because fear, how many of us have fears? Yeah, I do. But I don't let them rule. They can surface, but it's information. You know, if fear wasn't there, we wouldn't know what to work on. But instead of working on it, sometimes we just run from it, right? And it seizes our brain. And the thing about fear, there's this little region here called the amygdala. You don't have to remember that. I'm not going to test you later. But it's right next to the short-term memory called the hippocampus. And that is why we remember stuff so intensely when there's a lot of emotion and passion. Because it's so close to this little fear region of the brain, and it gets embedded in our brain quicker. And it's also near our basal ganglia, just call it BG if you want to. But this is where our habits are formed. And the basal ganglia also connects to our prefrontal cortex. So the more intense emotions you have, the more it'll get sealed into our memory, the more it becomes habit, the more it gets wired. So it's so important to have our emotions in check, because we'll wire it. So if you have positive emotions, let's flip that. If we have positive emotions, if we felt good, we'll seal that in and wire the habits, the productivity. That's what we want. That is why emotions are important. When I started studying the law of attraction, I got it. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. You're supposed to be happy because that's how it gets wired. Your memory is so closely connected to all your emotions, and they become hardwired. So the more emotion, the more passion, the more purposeful, the more you feel good, you wire what you desire. Ooh, I just made that up too. I'm gonna use that again. All right, this will take you over the top right here in consciousness. Our brains, our emotional brains, are more sensitive to threat than reward. That's why we go into fear mode so fast. And that's okay, you know, I don't know, 5,000, 6,000 years ago when we're running from tigers and lions and all that because we were in survival mode. But not anymore. We want for our brains to be more sensitive to reward than threat. Because we're in modern times, we shouldn't be using the same primitive wiring systems to guide our lives anymore. And now that we know our brains are plastic, that we can direct it and it can grow, we can now rewire our brains to look for rewards, right? And not be so fearful, not be so threatened by words people say or things people do. You know, let people have their own journey and just send them off with good blessings sometimes, right? So let's go get into fear. We have some of these fears. We fear failure. We fear our own potential, what we can really do. It's like, can I really do that? Can I be on this stage talking to you tonight? Yes. And I love this quote. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate, but that we are powerful beyond measure, because the brain likes to be very certain, right? Or it will start feeling threatened. It wants to be secure. And anytime we get uncomfortable and start feeling insecure, anytime we start taking risks, we light up that amygdala, that fear part of our brain, because we want to stay comfortable. So, when you start living your full potential, it's limitless. So you're going to activate that fear region. But now that you're aware of it, you'll just feel the fear and do it anyways, right? That's how you start operating at that 30,000 feet level. Because now you're aware that, okay, I know it was supposed to show up, but now I'm rewiring my thoughts. I'm sending it to my prefrontal cortex. I'm consciously thinking about what I'm doing. I'm wiring my brain. I'm going to do this anyways. And the more you do it, that thing that scares you, that makes you almost want to, I don't know, go into a corner and hide, you'll keep doing it until that fear subsides. So we have fear in disguise. Those are those subconscious programs that are operating under our awareness and just running in the background, draining us, keeping us from our best selves. We fear that we're going to be humiliated if we stand in our truth and do something new, try something new. We fear rejection. How many of us have been rejected by at least one person in your life? Okay, keep your hands up. How many of you have been rejected by at least 5 people in your life? 10. 15. You see how the hands are going down? How many people have you actually met in your lifetime that did not reject you, that accepted who you are, that gave you that encouragement, that gave you that smile, that, you know, the person you met in the grocery store or something? If you look at it logically, you probably know or met over 5,000 people in your life. Maybe an average 10 people you know rejected you, a boyfriend, a parent, whoever. But if you do the math, that's only 0.2% of people who actually rejected you, right? That's insignificant. It's statistically insignificant, right? For you left brainers out there. So it's not, the fear is not even real, right? Once you start thinking on that level, fear loses its power. And that's how you show up. We have to disempower this fear, because we're wired for fear. If I say a couple of words to you, I'll trigger your amygdala right now. 9/11. Ebola, right? But I can also trigger your love centers, your first kiss, the first time you were told, I love you by your boyfriend or girlfriend, right? We fear getting old, we fear getting sick, and we fear death. But if you're living your life at that higher level of awareness with purpose, these things become insignificant. And you'll just be in the moment, the present. How many of you are present right now? Say, I'm here.
I'm here.
Yes. I want you to know that the fear can seize your higher order advanced brain. Okay, so we want to disempower it because it takes control of over your motivation, your memory, your focus, and your ability to make decisions. So we got to get it under control. And it can be activated consciously and unconsciously. Okay, so we really got to get the fear under control. All right, how do we do that? Really, being positive is a way to neutralize our fears. We have actually seen this in the brain. When subjects, participants in the study, when we are looking at their brain and they're showed fear pictures, and then they say positive things, their amygdala actually decreases in activation. And their higher order thinking brain, their prefrontal cortex, starts to light up because now they're regulating their emotions, because that's the place where you can regulate your emotions. But if we're only using 5% of it, no wonder we're out of whack, right? And you just start to see happy faces everywhere, right? We have a part of our brain that's dedicated to seeing happy faces, by the way. I thought that was fun. Mindset. When you understand the power of your brain, that it can grow, your mindset, you have a growth mindset. And a growth mindset has more activation than a fixed mindset. Okay, a fixed mindset doesn't want to make mistakes. They run from difficulty. They want to act like everything is natural, like you're either smart or you're not. But a growth mindset says that, I'm learning. This is a learning journey. And I know my brain is wired to learn and grow. And we have seen fixed mindsets versus growth mindsets. There's more activation. Because as soon as you say, I can't, you shut off your potential. There's no action potential. Why should the brain keep going? You already said you can't, right? So you don't get as much activation. And visualization is huge for the law of attraction, right? We know that if you visualize, you activate different parts of your brain as if you're really doing it. And this was seen, just patients visualizing moving their limbs, their toes. They activated the motor cortex in the higher order thinking brain, and we were able to capture that. So visualization works. It's wiring your brain. If you have a pretend weight and you start imagining that it's heavy, your motor cortex will start lighting up. You will actually start growing muscle fibers after a while. It's amazing. It works. So visualization is key to the law of attraction. It works. So all of you who have not manifested what you desire, keep visualizing, okay? So it's also important to identify your stressors because they affect your emotions, and we need our emotions positive and strong, right? To fuel our new habits, to activate our prefrontal cortex. So you have to know what is causing the negativity in your life and reframe those relationships, that self-talk, and turning it into something positive. So our brains are, supercomputers. We're the creators of computers, right? So obviously we're more powerful than a computer. The creation can't be more powerful than the creator. So all those things that your iPhones and your iPads and your computers can do, you can do it better. but you have to use your potential. Giving is huge for the law of attraction. We're used to hearing, ask and you shall receive. But really, it's in the giving of yourself, being more compassionate, being more empathetic, connecting to others is a human need. It's a human brain need. You take a person with depression and you put them in a place where they can volunteer, and you take the reflection off of themselves, they will be so much more positive and caring because you're activating their heart centers, their compassionate brain. There's specific parts of the brain dedicated for interpreting compassion and empathy. Where's the compassion? Where has it gone? We can activate that because our brains are wired for that. So add giving to your law of attraction. So you're the new generation of attractors, okay? You know about your brain. You're in the top 1% of the law of attraction nation because now you understand how your brain operates. You know what to focus on. You know that you have this advanced system in the part of your brain that has not been optimized. So I honor you for being here today and learning this. And I'm going to challenge you to rewire your brain, retrain your brain for compassion, for empathy, to be your authentic self, to operate at those higher levels of awareness, and go out and affect change in the world. Who's up for that challenge? My gosh, we need it, right? So, you have the missing piece. So which way are you going to go? It sounds like I'm speaking to the choir here, right? You already knew you were at a certain level of awareness, so I already know what decision you're going to make. I know you're going to see the pole coming in your own life now, right? And as we morph into our true selves, we always need support, right? Sometimes people don't understand when we are evolving into our higher selves. It's hard to talk to people, right, and tell them what's going on. It's like some people just don't get it, that you're changing and evolving to your higher self, and you need people to talk to, right, as you're evolving. So I have created a supporting program that will allow you to optimize your mindset, master your brain, master yourself. But really, it's about having the support in your evolution, because when that caterpillar is in its chrysalis, it's shielding itself. It's growing new wings and appendages, right? It's taking on a whole new form. And you need support in that. Even when it comes out, the wings are still wet, right? It can't fly off right away. But when it's ready to soar, nothing can stop it. It knows exactly where it needs to go. Because it's navigational system, right? And that's what I want for you. To tune into your higher awareness and your inner compass better. Because I want you to live your highest life, your highest potential. I want you operating at that 30,000 feet level. Remember, if you change your brain, you can change your life. And in doing so, we can change the world. Thank you.